first one has been married, but her husband died before she could conceive. So she is in a state of widowhood. The state of widowhood will cease as soon as the Redeemer, the Goel, comes on the scene. As for the second one, she has never had a husband, and she is in a state of alumim. This state of alumim, right, being an alma,
from the word alma, yeah.
right, will cease once a baal, a husband, takes her in marriage. The conclusion to which this strict parallelism leads us is that the word alma can only refer to a girl who has never been married and who has never had children. Once a baal, a husband, arrives on the scene, both her celibacy and the absence of children or progeny will cease.
So in other words, according to these two scholars, the difference between a virgin and alma is that alma is a young virgin. A virgin could be old or young, but alma refers to a young virgin.
Correct. Specifically, a young woman who's yet to be taken by a husband. And so I think that this actually, as we kind of conclude the first response about the meaning of the word alma, the fact that alma has to be a woman that has not yet known a man, a young woman who's known a man, makes this text all the more startling. So I'm going to read it. And actually, if we look at the Hebrew here, there's all sorts of beautiful plays on words here.
So you're reading Isaiah 7, 10 to 14.
Correct. Then the Lord spoke to Ahaz again, saying, Sha'al, ask a sign for yourself from the Lord your God. Make it as deep as She'olah. So, She'olah, right? And so it's interesting is the word ask and She'ol sound almost exactly the same.
And they look almost the same.
They look the same, exactly. So ask for yourself a sign, make it as deep as She'ol, right? Or as high as heaven, Lamala. We're going to get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
But Ahaz said, I will not ask, nor will I test the Lord. Then he said, listen now, O house of David. And by the way, here, he's not speaking just to Ahaz.
He's talking to the house of David.
Plural. Plural. Listen now, O house of David. Is it too slight a thing for you to try the patience of men, that you will try the patience of my God as well? Therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold,
Alma.
A virgin is pregnant. It does not say an alma will become pregnant, because that would not be a sign.
Yep, she is.
But there's an alma who is pregnant. How is it possible for an alma who has never slept with a man, who's not been taken by a man, to be pregnant? And here we see the beautiful play on words. Is there a connection between alma and as high as heaven?
The same words.
It's the same words. It's the same letters, just reversed.
Same letters, yes.
Right? So what is this sign that's as high as heaven? Lamala, and alma is pregnant.
Is, and the emphasis on is. It's not tahar, it's hara. It's she is pregnant.
Absolutely. And so here we see that this is truly an amazing sign.
And so we can conclude, at least for that part, that the gospel writers did not rip apart the translation or the meaning of the
Correct.
word.
They did not distort the meaning of alma. I think that we see from the book of Isaiah that that Matthew gets the meaning and Luke gets the meaning correctly.
So we tackle the meaning of the word alma, but what about the next argument? What about the context? Did the gospel writers rip out Isaiah 7:14 from its context?
So what's the problem with the context?
Is it a prophecy to be fulfilled, or was it fulfilled in Isaiah times?
Yeah, so the whole issue of, the context seems to tie Emmanuel's birth to the time period of the Assyrians. And if that's the case, obviously this can't be about the Messiah.
Yep.
Obviously, right? And so maybe I'll read it, Isaiah 7:14 through 20, just so that we get a sense of the context. Therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, a virgin will be with child. Notice I used the word virgin. We probably should say young virgin, right? Yeah. Young unmarried woman, right? Will be with child and bear a son, and she will call his name Emmanuel. He will eat curds and honey. At the time he knows enough to refuse evil and choose good. For before the boy will know enough to refuse evil and choose good, the land whose two kings you dread will be forsaken. Here we go. So Emmanuel had to have been born during the time of the Assyrians, case closed. Notice it says, The Lord will bring on you and on your people and on your father's house such days as have never come since the day that Ephraim separated from Judah, the king of Assyria.
Again, Assyria.
In that day that the Lord will whistle for the fly that is in the remotest part of the rivers of Egypt, and for the bee that is in the land of Assyria, they will all come and settle on the steep ravines, on the ledges of the cliffs, on all the thorn bushes, and on all the watering places. In that day the Lord will shave with a razor hired from the regions beyond the Euphrates, that is, with the king of Assyria, the head and the hair of the legs, and it will also remove the beard. And so,
So Assyria is coming up a lot. So do they have a case? Is it about the time of Assyria?
you know what's really important here, Golan, and this is really important, is that when we approach Isaiah 7, obviously the best way to interpret any given passage is in the larger context. And what's really significant, and even the rabbis will admit it, that all the messianic prophecies of Isaiah are placed in the context of the days of Assyria. Let me show you what I mean by this. I want you to notice Isaiah chapter 10. Now, some people would argue, okay, Isaiah chapter 9 is not about the Messiah. We'll do another podcast on that.
Okay.
So the rabbis do agree that Isaiah 11 is about the Messiah, right? Have you checked the rabbinic commentaries? Isaiah 11.
We'll get to there. Yeah, we'll have.
Even the anti-missionaries say, but the immediate context of Isaiah chapter 11 is Isaiah chapter 10. So let's read it.
Let's read.
All right? Woe to Assyria, and I'm going to start in verse 5 of chapter 10. Woe to Assyria, the rod of my anger, and the staff in whose hands is my indignation.
Wait, Assyria again?
It's Assyria. I send it against a godless nation and commission it against the people of my fury to capture booty and to seize plunder, to trample them down like mud in the streets. Yet it does not so intend, nor does it plan so in its heart, but rather it is its purpose to destroy and to cut off many nations. For it says, are not my princes all kings? Is not Kalno like Carchemish, or Hamath like Arpad, or Samaria like Damascus? As my hand has reached to the kingdoms of the idols, whose graven images were greater than those of Jerusalem and Samaria, shall I not do to Jerusalem and her images, just as I have done to Samaria and her idols? So it will be that when the Lord has completed all his work on Mount Zion and on Jerusalem, he will say, I will punish the fruit of the arrogant heart of the king of Assyria and the pomp of his haughtiness. Now I'm going to skip down to verses 33 and 34. Behold, the Lord, the God of hosts, will lop off the bows with a terrible crash. This is talking about the judgment of the Assyrians. He's going to cut down after the judgment, when the Assyrians come down and wipe out or kind of, they're used as God's rod of judgment against the people of Israel. Then God's going to cut down the bows with a terrible crash. In other words, the Assyrians. Those also who are tall in stature will be cut down, and those who are lofty will be abased. He will cut down the thickets of the forest with an iron axe, and Lebanon will fall by the mighty one. And then, right after this cutting down of everything, it says in chapter 11, verse 1, then, when? At the judgment of the Assyrians.
Exactly.
Then a shoot will spring from the stem of Jesse.
Another messianic prophecy.
The rabbis absolutely don't argue that Isaiah chapter 11, the context, if we were going to take the historical context of Isaiah's days, we would say that this prophecy had to have already been fulfilled.
Exactly.
And so this whole lopping off, it in some ways too, the parallel story of chapter 10 is when the Assyrians come and they're standing outside the gates of Jerusalem, right? If you remember the commander and he's mocking and you know, where are the gods of this nation and that nation? And God intervenes in a miraculous way and rescues Hezekiah. So in some ways you could say that Isaiah 11 looks like Hezekiah. Just like you could say that Isaiah 9 looks like Hezekiah, or Isaiah 7 looks like Hezekiah, but for the fact that we're dealing with a period of time, these descriptions of this exalted king and a forever kingdom, it can't be Hezekiah. We could say